So, we actually do have a package this week. And it's Rozen Maiden on Blu-ray. So this is thicker than I thought, and I'm pretty sure I don't have this. It's tricky to say because this is a Sentai film work, and sometimes it can be really hard to tell when they do re-releases. But looking through my past stuff, it didn't look like it. And this wasn't on my radar, so I wasn't quite sure that I was going to get this week. Mostly because, brain blanking. Mostly because Sentai stuff is not showing up on Amazon, and I think that was actually throwing the people on that forum in for a little loop as well. So I'll need to look a little more closely. That's 7 discs. 4 series, okay. This includes a English dub. Although if you watch it dubbed, then you're not going to get your Desu. Region A. Now, and I'm pretty sure I did not already have most of this on Blu-ray. I could be mistaken. But I did a search through my emails and order history. And it looked like I did not have the first Rozen Maiden and Drummond on Blu-ray. Episodes 1 through 2. Yeah, this is Overture. This one might have also been DVD only, but then I think well, okay, yeah, 4 makes sense. This is that last thing, I forget what it was called. Yeah, that's Rozen Maiden, and okay, yeah, I've got Rozen Maiden on Blu-ray for this week's Physical Anime Collection update. So yeah, I think I'm not going to have to try to find any filler videos. I will just have something. I think it's one thing next week as well. Next week also includes a complete collection of the final season of Monogatari. You know, aka Bakemonogatari, not any of the other Monogatari's that maybe y'all are thinking of. And as far as I can tell, that contains a bunch of the stuff that I just bought independently. So I think I don't need that. It still sounds like it would be neat to have, but yeah, more than I need. But like I said, it looked like maybe part of the reason things looked a little more empty, and they're still pretty light this week. But I think some of the reason things looked a little empty is because for some reason on Amazon, Sentai stuff is not showing up under anime. So I have to I don't know, take a look to see if I missed anything, because maybe something came out and I probably have to adjust the way I'm searching for stuff to make sure I can pick up on those. It's annoying, but well, you know, I guess the physical anime market just isn't as stable. Stuff I've watched. Unnamed Memory Episode 2. It didn't strike me as much as the first episode. I'm trying to remember what exactly happened in the second episode. It felt okay, but I'm not sure if I can remember enough about it to comment too strongly. I guess we had some of that stuff, and it's okay stuff. But yeah, I guess as a series it doesn't feel that strong. Konosuba Season 3 Episode 2. What all happened in this episode? I think that stuff was Episode 1. This one was all that stuff, and it was entertaining enough. A little bit of Fuck That Princess. A little bit. And it's definitely been a very interesting and differently engaging than I would have expected, in both good and bad good ways, I guess. So, Season 3 is continuing to be amusing. Mysterious Disappearances, Episode 2. Yeah, there's something about it that's still interesting. Can I remember everything about the second episode that kept me? I know I like the the street sign thing being more relevant than I would have thought. Introduction of characters a little bit more, stuff from the first episode being a little more relevant than I would have thought it would continue to be, and yeah. I'm just trying to remember what was at the very end. Oh yes, we had that reveal, which was something that I think we could have guessed based on stuff that was happening in the episode, so it's kind of confirmation sorts of stuff. Where's it going to end from there? I guess kind of a curiosity. Interesting show. I get the feeling that episode 3 is probably going to resolve whatever story thing they're telling right now, and the real trick will be what happens after that, because it'd be hard to tell if this is a good 3-episode measurement or not, but I guess I'll think about that next week. And Archdemon's Dilemma, How to Love Your Elf Bride, episode 4. I actually appreciate a lot of things about this episode because it kind of proves that the show, even though it's got a premise that could very easily have been a little dull, possibly repetitive or something like that, it's staying surprisingly dynamic, doing things that I would have guessed would either have happened earlier in the show or later in the show, which makes it interesting that it happened now, but it's being done in a way that's, I don't know, I find it to be a little engaging, just because it doesn't feel like it's decided that its characters are acting in a way that's convenient for its conclusion. Instead, it's making the characters act in ways that I think some of them we the audience want, some of them we the audience understand, some of it is just, yeah, it's staying pretty good, I'd say. A Salad Bowl of Eccentrics, episode 3. So this will be the 3rd episode and our chance to evaluate this series, and I'd say it's entertaining. I think it's a little directionless, maybe. Slightly whimsical in that nature, but also maybe not without some vague concept of a direction. So I guess you can make of that what you will, but I don't know. I guess sometimes it feels like the fantasy isekai elements that pop up, they tend to be amusing when they do. In this episode, it felt a little entertaining, but was it entertaining because that's the way the character actually thought? It's really hard to tell because sometimes it feels like, no, it kind of knew that she was doing something that maybe would be ever so slightly out of character for what she would need to do, but at the same time, it also did a pretty good job of making it feel like it needed to do stuff, so I don't know. Kind of hard to read the series after 3 episodes. Entertaining enough, though. Delicious in Dungeon, episode 16. We had a lot of interesting character interactions happening. Stuff that it's been setting up and stuff that is directing us more in a forward direction, I guess. Like, let's see, there was definitely some cooking that happened here. A couple of different kinds of cooking. But at the same time, it's still in pretty serious storytelling mode at the same time. And I think it's doing a good job. I think it's very interesting where it's at. Let me see. That time I got reincarnated as a slime, season 3, episode 51. I'd say it was an okay episode. I think it's finally starting to show the sort of stuff that maybe I kind of would have wanted to see in the very first episode, but it was playing catch up for these past couple of episodes, kinda. I mean, there was still stuff that happened, but I'm not sure if it's stuff that I feel like, oh yes, this is us watching this show about Rimuru. Instead, those episodes were about all the other side consequences of all that stuff, I guess. But yeah, finally starting to get nice. Misfit of Demon King Academy, season 2, episode 14. What happened in this one? I guess some really interesting stuff. I felt like some of the interactions with that one character were kind of nice. Like, it feels like they're a character that we want their comeuppance, and we loathe and hate to some degree. Also, not sure what we would think about, hey, this has been happening to them, but it feels like, you know, they've been given the ability to grow over these couple of seasons in an interesting way. In a way that's just sort of nice, I guess. And there's also other little things about it that were touching that, you know, it didn't elaborate on too much, but sort of like, that's a surprisingly kind gesture. I'm trying to think what else is going on in main story-wise. Okay, they did start establishing some of the concept of main story, I suppose. And I guess I'm not quite sure what to think about it, but, you know, it's second episode of the second core of the second season, so I guess we'll just have to see what continues to do. For Irregular at Magic High, I finally completely caught up on that, so that means I watched the last 2 episodes of Season 2, which, yeah, had absolutely nothing to do with being something I didn't remember, and actually was something I vaguely remembered, but I thought it was like the movie. But no, the movie was something else, because I watched the movie, and that one was actually a prequel to the first season, while told from the perspective of being in between seasons 2 and 3. So, you know, season 2, okay, it was a nice, interesting, big thing. I think as I go into season 3, I'll have some stuff to talk about. But for the prequel movie, entertaining enough. I don't know that it really has quite the wow factor as a movie per se, but in terms of, I guess, the little build-up that it does do and the conflict it does have, it's entertaining enough, I suppose. I guess something about it just kind of feels off from, I guess, this sort of build-up it could have been, but it couldn't really be that because season 1 of the series already was that. And I think it knew that. As for season 3, we're 3 episodes in, and it's really hard for me to tell what to think about this. It was very interesting that episode 1 revisited the very end of what happened at season 2, but kind of in a more detailed, slightly different detailed sort of way. Just because I guess it's somewhat more important to this season. Entertaining enough, but season 3 episode 2, something about it felt a little off to me. And I'm not sure if it's really just that it was just a little too much exposition, I suppose. Maybe done in a way that's bad, because it is possible that we got similar levels of exposition between characters that was not new information to the audience per se. I mean, I think there were bits and pieces of it, but the problem is I think they talked about too many of the details at large from the perspective of like a couple of different groups. And so it felt a little weak, I thought. And in season 3, episode 3, what even happened in this one? Okay, enough stuff, I suppose. And I think it really gets down to, it's maybe not bad. I'm definitely curious to see where it's going to go. I can say I'm really glad I rewatched season 2, because season 3 stuff seems to be picking back up major plot points that were from season 2 that I didn't remember at all. So they're very fresh in my mind having watched season 2. So far the prequel movie hasn't come in too strongly, but I did think that maybe it was revealing little bits and pieces of stuff that were clarified in that movie, maybe. I don't think they've actually done that, though. I think that was just me wondering if they were doing that, and I don't think they actually did that. But I guess part of the reason why I guess season 2 didn't leave a lasting impression, and the movie I've never seen before and isn't, I think it's because the first season is pretty good for its goal, because it's about the Irregular at Magic High, but as for what kind of story it is, it's pretty straightforward through season 1 and consistent through season 1, which is what makes it kind of memorable, I think. Basically, the idea is our main character, whose name I'm forgetting right now, maybe Tatsuya, or maybe that's from a different anime. Shit, I don't know. So it's about, okay, he's in a regular magic high. They don't think he's that powerful magician, but people underestimate what he can do, and pretty much the entirety of the first season is just a ramping up as he gets more and more noticed, does more and more interesting things, with season 1 actually feeling like it's an accumulation. Now, you could say that season 3 has some good stuff in terms of him having moved forward to being on the student council proper at this point, and in engineering, but I'm not sure if it feels like it's him moving forward, at least not this far into season 3. But then that leaves season 2, which isn't really any of that. So it's sort of like, you watch season 1 of a regular at Magic High, and it just gets... It does feel like it builds up to where that season ends. And while we definitely want to see more stuff, it's no longer part of that progression. It's now, it feels like a separate thing that's not necessarily irrelevant, but I don't know. It lost that feeling. And season 3, I haven't felt that feeling pick up. I think that's what I'm noticing watching it. I'm like, not sure that this is bad stuff, but at the same time, I can see why. I don't know. And maybe there's some elements of season 2 that sort of felt like they could be an elevation, but I don't know. How do you rise above what season 1 did? It's like, what do they make after Super Mario Galaxy? Super Mario Universe? And then what after Super Mario Universe? Super Mario Multiverse? There's only so far you can really go with some of that stuff. Not that the regular Magic High is doing that, but it's, I guess, that sort of feeling where if you keep escalating... Yeah. If you keep escalating. Let me see. I did choose to watch Studio Apartment Good Lighting Angel Included Episode 4, because Episode 3 ended with a very interesting... Oh, that's an interesting setup sort of thing. Now, I'm trying to remember how Episode 4 ended. Because Episode 3 was Episode 4 was interesting because what Episode 3 ended with, the little stinger it had, led to a lot of very interesting character dialogue. Maybe not necessarily what they say so much as who's interacting with who and doing what, when, where, why, and how. There could have been... Yeah, I don't remember what was at the end of the episode. It's all been fine stuff, I think. So, it's got a little bit of that freshness where I think somebody really into this genre, they're probably definitely loving this. For other people, it kind of really depends. I don't think people would outright hate it. I think there's elements of it where there's like, it's maybe some of the character interactions are a little too simple, naive, straightforward, or something like that. I couldn't blame people for thinking that. No, but it was stuff. Train to the End of the World, Episode 3. So this is the 3rd episode, so this is worth talking about in terms of that 3-episode mark, and I think this is the episode it needed. So, I don't think I mentioned this last time, but Episode 2, it didn't rub me the wrong way. I guess it just didn't leave a strong impression, but I do remember, in retrospect, and I probably didn't mention this, that I felt like it was a little too much, these characters are just chatting, and I'm not sure if I cared for the chatting. It's a little just, they're just chatting-ish, but if that gave the impression that the show is just going to be, these characters seeing weird things, but we're mostly about not what they're doing, but what they're chatting about, then it's maybe not as interesting. Which is why Episode 3 is good, because it's got, them talk about whatever they talk about, but it shows, okay, this is a show that isn't forgetting it needs to do interesting things too. And I'd say what it did was interesting. I'm not sure if there's any one element of it that's something new per se, but it was definitely just a very, if not fresh feeling, at least a refreshingly well executed 3rd episode. So I'd say off to a good enough start. God's Game We Play, Episode 3, established that, okay, our 2 main characters are good at games, but they need more people. And I guess the new person they've introduced is, interesting enough. I guess we'll just have to kind of see where it goes, because to a certain degree it feels like, you know, the show's being a little, oh, here you go, here's a convenient thing for you, ish. It doesn't completely feel that way, but it definitely has enough of a feeling that if somebody felt that, I don't think I can blame them. But what it's, it just feels like it's very watchable. Now, granted, if episode 4 doesn't have a God game, it could feel a little off, but no, they ended episode 3 with them literally going into a God game, so, yeah. I guess, you know, it's fine. It seems like a fine series. Kaiju number 8, episode 2. So, like I mentioned, episode 1, if it didn't include what it did at the very, very, very end, was really good. And what it did at the very, very end doesn't really mess that up, but it does make it where it's like, okay, all that stuff could have been a just real good character story, but now they've thrown an very interesting wrench into it, and what does that mean? What happens? And I'd say it was pretty entertaining. We didn't see certain things happen, but episode 2 did a good job of establishing, I think, why we're not going to be seeing much interaction between our main character and the girl he made the promise with when they were kids. In at least certain ways, and his interaction was very nice with, like, that little girl. That was, I thought, very well executed. Not sure what else to say other than, can we just kill that stupid blonde-haired bitch? I don't like her at all. Oh, well, I wanted to park in that spot not because I'm going to die or nothing, but because I believe in horoscope. Well, I'll just move your car for you and I'll just destroy it. It's like, it doesn't matter if she's good at killing kaiju. She's as big of a threat as they are, as far as I'm concerned. She's just a horrible person that does not know how to coexist with other people. We shouldn't suffer that fucking bitch. God. I hate her so much. I hope the show is aware that we hate her so much. It might be doing it very intentionally, but at this point, I don't know if I can see her as ever redeemed, because that's not even, oh, I made a mistake kind of dumb. That's, she's just a sick motherfucking piece of shit. But everything else about the episode was really great. It's just unfortunate that at the end we had her. The Newgate, episode 2. What all happened in this one? Entertaining enough stuff, I think. I thought we had maybe gotten some feels for some things in it. I do like the fact that it moved a couple more things forward beyond what episode 1 had done. And I don't mention this about episode 1, but I also appreciate the fact that it's like, oh, well, here's a character. It's like establishing, oh, well, is he just going to be traveling with her now? And it's, and now I'm not really sure, and I think that's a good thing. At the same time, I'm not quite sure where it's going in terms of he's clearly so ridiculously overpowered that people are noticing. I'm not sure if it's doing it in the best way, but it's entertaining enough for people that watch that sort of thing. Which includes me, you know, Isekai Junkie. Things to think about. As a reincarnated aristocrat, episode 3. Should I maybe be calling it as the appraisal aristocrat, maybe? Just because there's so many reincarnated aristocrats. There's even a couple of them here. Although it's a 7th prince, but yeah, so appraisal. I thought it was an entertaining enough episode. I thought that the story with the blue-haired girl was surprisingly a little touching in the way it was executed, and kind of neat stuff that happened in there. Things I'd wonder, oh, would things really go down that smoothly? But overall, entertaining enough. I'm trying to think if we got anything about our main character that's overtly great, per se. In terms of his behavior, I think his influence on things is nice enough, and I definitely want to see more. And I guess that was episode 3, so what do I think about this series as a whole? Well, you know what? The introduction of the 2 characters so far has actually been pretty nice, so I'm interested in seeing the rest of it. Jobless Reincarnation, Season 2, Episode 15. I'm trying to remember. Oh, yes, very interesting stuff. I think some interesting lessons about problems that could not have been solved in just... I don't know what to say. I guess I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but definitely something that reminds me of circuit design problems. Not that I'm done that a lot and very familiar with that, but I at least at a high level understand some of the problems that have to be addressed when they handle that. And it's kind of interesting, some of that stuff coming up, and some of where, oh, here's how things get handled comes up. It's a very touching episode, and also touching because of what it sets up at the end. Now, that said, speaking of fuck you blonde-haired bitch, I mean, I do give Rudius' sister a bit of a leeway, but you know what? Paul was being a complete jackass, and he's the one that attacked first, so her turning it around on Rudius as if he was the one bullying infuriates me. Not as much as blonde-haired girl who needs to be killed, but, you know, just still. Okay, show. You've been a good show. You've been smart. Show me what you're going to do, because even that scene was handled very smartly. But at the same time, you know, I already know, and the show knows as well, that you have to redeem her because her innocence is trepidatious, I guess. So, interested to see where episode 16 goes. Tsukimichi, Season 2, Episode 16. I guess it's interesting how they took a character that, you know, we thought was a certain stereotype, and they loosened those stereotypes a bit. But the episode is mostly an explanation for things that we've kind of known have been going on, but now we know the details. And I guess it's a chance for us to just be prepared for what happens in the next episode, I guess. I have certain thoughts about what's going to happen, and I do appreciate that the show's staying in a trepidatious way, and hopefully this is actually a setup for an important confrontation, because I think the show doesn't have that. I think we're kind of hoping for that big confrontation moment. So we'll have to see. Reincarnated Seventh Prince. I don't even think this is the only one about a Seventh Prince. Maybe that one was the Fifth Son or something. So Seventh Prince. So Reincarnated Seventh Prince, Episode 4. I think kind of fun. I think if there's any criticism I would have at this, it's not too bad of a thing. This one is mostly about how the maid kicks butt, as opposed to our main character. But our main character is doing some really kick butt stuff on the side in kind of his own simple way. But because of the way things are set up, you just kind of know, okay, yeah, he's definitely not going to go into psychopath mode. Maybe psychopath is the wrong word. I don't know. No. That's the right word. But, you know, this episode didn't have that. It didn't seem like it could have it. But it was entertaining enough as it was, I suppose. I think... I'm trying to think if they set something up at the end for next episode, but I don't remember. Remonster, Episode 4. So like I said for Episode 3, that kind of ended in a weird place. Not necessarily bad, but sort of like a, wait, this is what you're ending Episode 3 with? And I guess it's okay stuff, but Episode 4 had more interesting interactions going on. It's still moving forward at about the same concept, I guess. You know, it's like our main character changes, and then there's other characters that kind of follow behind him, etc. And sorry, excuse me. I'd say the stuff that happened in this episode is entertaining enough. Probably if you found stuff going up to this point entertaining, Assuming, of course, that is every episode now about him having sex or something like that? Yeah, no, that it was pretty obvious that was an end of episode 3 thing. It was just still weird. Now, episode 4 is back to the same sort of stuff it was doing before. It's like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. We'll just have to see how much it's able to keep going. Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf, episode 4. Entertaining stuff. It's definitely such a very Spice and Wolf thing. I can see why people wanted the 3rd season. I mean, I think I probably wanted it, but I probably watched the 1st season, 2nd season with enough of a break that I didn't have a good feeling for wanting a 3rd season. If a 3rd season come out, I would have been splendid. But I think as it is now, it's like, yeah, the way these two characters interact with each other is just kind of touching and wholesome at times. This was definitely one of those episodes with that. And I'm not sure that's any different than what happened in the 1st season from a billion years ago. But, I think that's what we're expecting. This is these same characters, but we get to rewatch a remake of the 1st season and hope for season 2 and 3 if we keep watching it. And I feel like it's worth watching. Maybe y'all would think differently if some of y'all are young enough that you're like, oh no, this is completely new to me. But I don't even know how many people like that I have watching my channel. And it's okay if you're not one of those people. I don't try to advertise my channel or anything like that. So, whoever's here is just here. It's all cool. And then finally we had Chillin' in Another World with Level 2 Super Cheat Powers, Episode 3. So that's the end of the 3-episode thing. And what do I think of this series so far? Huh? Entertaining enough. Our main character's overpowered, so it's mostly a question of what are they doing with that. And I'd say maybe better than Drugstore in Another World. Not to be confused with Pharmacist in Another World or Drugstore Pharmacy in Another World. I'm having so much trouble remembering its name. But I feel like there's a little bit of overlap in terms of, okay, here's our main character interacting with, a kind of cute dog girl. And she was definitely one of the high points in Drugstore in Another World. And this one here is kind of good, but I feel like the interaction is a little less episodic and definitely a little more, oh yeah, it's just nice to kind of see her doing stuff. And our main characters interacting with stuff is okay. I don't think that's anything too spectacular, but it's okay. It's mostly just weird because you have the 4 knights that are there, and they seem to be the entirety of the ending credits for some reason. Like the show isn't about him, but it's about them. But maybe it makes sense because I don't know if they can make it about him. And if it's about them, then it's only okay. Maybe good. I could see why people wouldn't be too enthused by this show. But, it's okay. It's something to watch. I feel like it's more watchable than that other thing I just removed from the list. Because I didn't watch episode 3. I didn't watch episode 4 last week. 5 this week. Maybe it's perfectly fine. I don't know. All I know is there anything else? Yeah, I do know that yesterday, that would be Sunday, I realized, oh, there's these Sentai releases that I wasn't aware of, and then I'm like, okay, I could order Rozen Maiden, should arrive in time for today, as you can see it did. But I was like, maybe if it was at risk, I should still record myself cooking stuff, but I'm really not cooking anything. Literally, if I was to record a video of the stuff I cook, it's hard-boiled eggs, and I prepare for some sandwiches for the week. And while there could be kind of interesting things to mention there, it's not like... The big problem is I don't do it while watching anime. I might get away with it if I'm doing it while watching a dubbed anime. I've got a couple of those. But for the most part, I'm not. And that's because it only takes like 30 minutes to get all that done. And then it's all done. And I just barely have the energy to do anything as it is, it feels like. Did we even play Lethal Company this past week? I think we might have. But I'm definitely just tired. Yeah. I'm not sure if I have anything else to really talk about because I just haven't done anything. So, guess we'll end it there. Y'all, have a nice week.